4月30日国际真奶日，我怎么不知道这种东西啊 ？Are you kidding me？ 什么时候有这种节日的？我不知道哎、天哪！好安哦。好，然后因为昨天的时候，我一开始有讲了，就是他因为我说了2次正确的时间，然后他说就是他对于我这种行为感到非常的感动，所以他决定第3次的时候让我，这是第3次，目前是这一次是第3次，他要让我随便挑，我可以随便填入我自己喜欢的时间，对。虽然我不晓得这个到底是不是在玩梗，还是在想玩什么东西，还是一个恶作剧，我不晓得。可是呢，我决定跟聊天室的大家一起讨论一下，到底要用哪个时间来确定，决定来讨论一下要随便写大概几点这样子，大家一起讨论吧。他那个12那个地方就是最多到12，右边的话当然就是到59。左边的话是01到12，右边的话是00到59。破完第1次新内容结局之后，再去新内容空间会出现。然后是因为我不晓得它现在这个东西会怎样，所以我们先看一下，我们先搞定好这个时间的部分再说。我们先搞定好这个东西吧。反正那个东西就是前面先让你重温一下之前到底是 What's happening， 你曾经玩过的游戏到底 What's happening 之后，然后再给你新内容。这边就这边调，这边有 AN 跟 PN，AN 跟 PN 不是我这边想调就调，它是直接调这边，调过去它是这样子的。我们这边有什么幸运数字，还是有什么东西想要直接写上去？有没有什么幸运数字可以写的？这个东西其实调比我想象快欸。0430嘛，0430感觉行那我们就0430吧。晚上嘛，晚上的4点30分。或者你能不能不要再拒绝给我正确的时间？不要再拒绝给我的意思是说，他希望我给他正确的时间，还是不要我给他正确的时间啊？那两个步让我觉得有点困惑，能不能不要再拒绝？他其实是不要，然后那个不跟不的部分呢，能不能不要再拒绝给我正确的时间？毕竟我知道你有多喜欢正确设置时间。哈？现在我很好奇下午4点30的准确性，让我们用另外一个滑块来了解一下。你知道吗？我可以说，不管时钟的准确性如何，我在调整这些设置是很开心。好，你开心就开心了。我觉得我在更多的了解，怎么听上去有点变态啊？收集数据是已经用光了所有的滑块，可以发明一些新的滑块，应该不会太难。What？ 下次启动游戏时？等一下，所以我现在连开启游戏之后的设置都会被算成是一个玩那个吗？都被当成是一个就是在玩一个游戏的感觉。好了，我们先开始吧。It's never the end. It's never the end. It's never the end. It's never the end. It's never the end. 上一轮的之前的时候，那个旁白我那个已经失心疯到，就是开始在讲这个东西。我不知道旁白究竟是发生了什么事情。
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
我已经听过这个东西了。Welcome back.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
我们上一次新内容的部分是从哪边冒出来的啊？还会再出现吗？不会了吧？哇哦，全新内容 ，new content。哦，好哦。
Oh, good. You noticed my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you.
What? 已经过了好几万天。What? 你要把我带去哪里？又要再次绑架了史丹利啦！旁白对史丹利是真爱吧？这是一种 CP 吗？旁白跟史丹利，这种东西有人吃吗？嗯？不是，你的 loading 是不是有点久？New content， 哈？干嘛？我是手上，你知道他现在让我感觉上就是你知道我就是我按左键，它就是只会有这个选项，对不对？它只会一直有那个敲键盘的声音。那我可以假设说，史丹利现在是有一个那个有个带子，然后从他的那个就是绕在他的那个脖子上，然后这样弄着，然后顶在那个身前，然后有个键盘，然后就一直在那边打东西嘛。可是总觉得就是有一种他带了一个键盘，他就拼命在那边打东西的感觉。好。
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley Parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley Parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable 2.
哇！你在我昨天睡觉的时候鼓捣这么个东西啊
Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel, an entirely new experience built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for.
新马克杯The Stanley Parable 2 哇 Apple 电脑那什么 Testing 2 Printer at the same time 请同时测试2台印表机 What？ 经费有了是吧？哈，这不能走吗？我对这边很好奇啊。还有饮水机耶，真棒！有 H2O 哎 ，2 H2O 的 2。欢迎来到这里。参访者的那个行走路线。
Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising potential.
一堆海报，一堆海报到底是想杀回？这什么东西？没有。这什么东西？这是截图吗？CO Pictures 什么乡间小巷？没按了没反应。更多的饮水机，你是很怕我缺水喝是不是？我就 2包山 还是 TGA？Windows 图片 ，Windows 图片吗？那个是东西，因为我们很久没有看这些东西了。这是 Windows 10的那些待机图片，是不是？Just the two of us. We can make it. If you try, just two of us. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Building castle in the sky. Just two of us. You and I. 这是一首诗吗？还是一首歌？还是一首歌的那个歌词啊？总觉得就是会配上一把民谣吉他，然后就噔噔，然后就开始边弹边唱。说不定我去 YouTube 查 just the two of us， 我就找到那首歌，你知道吗？哇，什么都打开了，不要吓我。New mug. Time to wake up. 怎么听上去像是一种梦结局之类的东西啊？Bird. 看不到那个东西，这什么？这什么？没办法拉近，你知道吗？什么 two 什么东的？就 two of us. You're back. Two doors. 什么都是 two 是吧？这个 two 倒是挺显眼的啊。这是什么？啊？CP 图？这是什么？一台 computer， 然后一个人，这三回。这是哪有这种登录画面的啊？登录画面可以这样选的吗？这是正常的吗 ？Two， 你这是不是有点着魔了？对吧 ？This is my 那个 second cup， 这是我第二杯。行吧，可是为什么是一只鸟的造型 ？Don't talk to me before I have had my sequel. What? More TSP. Better TSP. Win-win. Sequels on my share. Brick and more, huh? The color red. 这个是旁白在脑力激荡的时候的办公室吗？为什么我觉得光是在看这些新的东西，我都觉得特别北七啊？这是什么？就这个造型怎么好像有那么一点像是 Windows 早前的那个 Office 软体的那个 Word 的那个回纹针的感觉？但不是我的错觉啊，觉得蛮像的。新的马克杯。这是 PowerPoint 吗？哦，这个是这个是史丹利预言2的那个 logo 的发想。哇，怎么突然觉得好像上班了？天哪！所以这我现在是看别人专案的那个制作幕后花絮，是不是？我们在制作这个东西的时候花了很多心思哦。不知道为什么，我觉得第二页的感觉有点像是那个生化危机的感觉。就这边的第2章。第3章是那个 The Beginner Start 那个 Beginner's Guild 的那个新手指南的那个风格。Thanks for attending my meeting. Click to add speaker's notes. Google 简报吗？哦，滑上面的确是，对，特别好笑，充斥着各种北七感。不是这个东西弄得有模有样的，一瞬间不知道该吐槽些什么。啊，那个蕨类植物为什么会在这个地方出现啊？你是要考我是不是？哇！第5页是，你说第5页吗？对，应该是村庄。那这样第4页我反而不知道第4页是哪一个东西的风格。第1页应该蛮普通的，就可能也有典故，可是我不晓得。啊 ，logo 每次做这种 logo 设计的时候，都会觉得很心累。这种是要求更精妙的东西，跟什么的 ，two 的时代，这个是什么？本地多人的意思吗？你是想要玩双人模式的意思吗？双人成型吗？一个史丹利不够，两个史丹利是吧？这是双胞胎啊。
Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really.
那个会议计划，这是什么？900还是1000 ？Design page break 哦，这是几点的意思吗 ？two， 两个眼睛，两个耳朵，两个什么东西？两个鼻孔吗？两条手臂，两条腿？问号。Who took the red marker? Me. 啊 ？What？我觉得变成一种自嘲性的东西了。一个史丹利不够，需要2个。这是什么？续集。啊？续集是很棒的。啊，他举的例子像是《传送门2》《半条命2》。那个蝙蝠侠阿卡姆疯人院2其实是阿卡姆之城 Divinity， 这是什么？天命吗？然后毁灭战士2，然后阿拉丁2，甲方的复仇，然后黑暗灵魂2。全部都是2是吧？这是疯了吧？这个 A prequel to the Stanley Parable 2 is the sequel to 哇哦！老实说，这种设计我并不反感，只是这个东西的过度这有点过度阐释了。过度阐释了吧？这个，哇，这3盒，这是什么？没有，都看过了，没东西。This way to the show floor， 去展示楼层。你需要这么大的空间吗 ？New features。What? New content 这是巴士吗？旁边是什么？就是无障碍的那个路线。下面这是什么？请不要禁止饮食是吧？这边旁边这个按钮不知道什么，有点像假面骑士的腰带。应该只是我的错觉吧。不是K 一下是什么意思？所以这边不是我需要看的地方吗？我需要的是直接走过去。椅子。哇！我靠！这么隆重吗？
Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features.
新功能啊？什么新功能？这是一个展示厅吗？史丹利预言的那个像是什么超大型展览之类的吗？这是什么 ？Resurgence bucket 就是这个桶子不是吗？哇，周边呢？Welcome to the showcase. New features, new contents, new game 2。 I saw the new content， 这不是太过头了 ？OK， 太多北七玩意儿了吧？等一下，那边远方那个东西是我的错觉吗？我看到有个东西在转，它真的在转。啊！我是要先看什么好？我先看什么东西好？哦，办公室装饰，史丹利寓言安心桶。安心桶是什么东西？显示正在玩游戏的玩家名称的按钮。玩家名称的按钮。Name, hear yours today. New features. 好吧，我先过去看一下这个。
For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players really want? And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first addition to the game is this button which speaks the name of the person playing the game. Isn't that wonderful?
我不能按呢、Too big, too small, just right. 太偏右了是吧？哦，这边不是让我按的吗？A button that says the name of the player that is playing the game. 在押韵，也不是反感押韵就是。全都橘色。Try it.
Jim. Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim. But of course, in the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is. Here, let's have you roleplay as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature. Just play along. I promise you'll love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim. I want you to imagine yourself living as Jim, sleeping and waking as Jim, falling in love and being heartbroken as Jim, seizing all of the world's possibilities as Jim, and as Jim watching your dreams crumble into dust. Do you feel it deeply? Are you really, truly Jim right now? If so, then please step forward and press the button.
我总觉得像吉姆一样生活，到最后面我会被萨克干掉啊
Jim. Yes, you see? What a thrill, what a rush. That was you. The button described you. Do it again, do it again.
What?
Jim. Ooh, it hits even harder the second time. If this were the only new feature in the Stanley Parable 2, it would still be worth the money. Let's take a break from the Jim button. I'm too emotionally drained from all of this personal validation. Whoa there, cowboy. Sometimes a person can be too much Jim. I'm putting the Jim button away. Otherwise, soon you'll start to lose all sense of who you actually are. Jim.
觉得他的声音到后面从 Jim 变成 Jen，白痴死了！这个功能不是这个东西的定义在哪里啊？他是想要说，是我按这个按钮，它就会发出我人名的声音吗？那我在什么时间点会用到它啊？
I suppose I could allow only people named Jim to play the Stanley Parable 2.
What?
That would actually save me the work of finishing this feature.
不需要桶之类。好像有很多东西可以逛。这个是什么？啊，这个就是我们玩家的形象吗？啊，至少我们看得出，我们终于看到了它长怎样了。 该怎么形容呢？有那么一点像是被那个常年下来，然后被工作还是被什么东西洗脑之后呈现的那种 朦胧的那种意识感，就是简单讲，还是看上去就是有点像是我分不清楚我人在哪里，我是谁那种感觉。我先看这个，看上去很吓怕的东西，哪里手的？
A common complaint of the Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it. Well, I'm happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's true. As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try.
这个跟这样子的话，这个功能跟你拿着一个抱枕或娃娃的感觉有什么差别吗？你要不要干脆出一个更好的，像是水桶布偶之类的，那是不是好一点？
Can you feel it? The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma as well? I think that just holding it has made you the slightest bit more attractive as a person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on, don't they? All this and more await you in the Stanley Parable 2.
为什么总觉得这种屋子的风格，我从这个角度去看这个风格，很像是超人特工队里面的那个某个区域的感觉啊。这种建筑美学，再加上这种灯的那种照射，好像啊。不是我拿了桶子到底能够干什么？好歹给我功能吧，没有功能吗？这东西没功能可言吗？毫无功能可言吗？这个桶子。
Does anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? That really should be an award if it isn't already.
无底深洞是什么东西？办公室装饰。
Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with?
这也是史丹利的脸吗？
You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Get Well Someday it is.
谢谢你哦，天哪！后面完全不一样，完全变。
Or actually, maybe I should have gone with no. I've made my decision. We're moving on.
这里面变成全部都是早日康复的气球。好哦，有你的。不是啊，我这个桶子能干嘛啊？能不能告诉我功能啊？ What? No screenshots. 我忘记 Steam 的 screenshot 是哪个？哪个键的？啊，糟糕！等等，卡住！ 哦，差点，好像按到不该按的东西，吓死我了！我接下来去哪里啊？这边拿？诶？为什么？这是东西。我是不是现在不该走到这个地方啊？等一下，这边没有一个告示跟我讲说我接下来该去哪边比较好的。
You know what? Let's bring the jump circle back for Stanley Parable 2 as well. It's... Oh, wait. You already spent all your jumps the first time we saw the jump circle. Oh well. I suppose it can just be a nice decorative piece then.
还是不能跳。No jumps remain player tiers. 所以我就是不能跳，就是了。哦，从这边走进来的啦，白痴哦！哦天哪！这是什么东西？显示玩家的新的功能、新的内容、新的点子。新的 quality 更棒的画质啊！就只是这是什么鬼？这红色到底是什么鬼？The new updates retrace more of the same, but in a good way. 你这个音乐你这个音效要不要太符合那个啊？999 Red is the new orange. Huh? A whole new office. Wow.
An epilogue would be fun, wouldn't it, Stanley? Yes, it would go at the end of the, well, we'll figure that out later.
你应该不会想现在就跟我吐那个剧透之类的东西吧？真傻！我这边走过来没关系，是不是？啊，那还好。怎么会有一个女性的那个、啊、的剪影啊？这是要有一个 love story 之类的，是不是？我觉得应该不会，以这个游戏的尿性，应该是不太可能发生这种事情。设置世界冠军。免费成就 ，a free new easy achievement. It just work. It just work 不就是那个设置世界？设置世界冠军单没有啊，没有看到设置世界冠军这个东西啊！可恶，糊弄我！我们现在看一下轻松简单就可以获得的那个的成就好了，在这边获得就可以咯。免费的成就，只要获得你自己的吧，只要拉下拉杆，获得你全新的成就，不需要更多的步骤，就这样子。赶快获得吧！其实他写完1跟2之后就不用再写3了吧？浪费东西。
Now here's something special. You remember that broken test achievement that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the achievement. Yes, you see, you'll come to this lever, and when you pull it, the achievement will be given to you. It's as simple as that.
这边不能走，是不是？好吧。我说我没有灯之类的东西，我没办法确定我到底看到什么。 怎么有一种这个是那个墨水机器的感觉啊？
Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the achievement is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world who have been uproariously demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen.
所以啊，就是不能各式各样的芙蓉哎，它上面写什么 ？Please pour me。我说我的桶子到底能干嘛啊？各种让人糊弄人的东西耶！天哪！没有东西是不是？我觉得来的跟没来一样。
What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet?
That's new. That's new. Compatible. 这边是什么休息区吗？这种展场需要有大到需要用到这种东西去展示它吗？为什么这个地方竟然是没有翻译的？你是在这里，深刻的感觉到这个东西也没有必要性。这是什么？出口跟跳跃圈 ？What？ 无尽深渊，收藏品。Can you find it? Can you find it? Can you find it? Collectible, collectible. Gonna catch all 不是？啊，我去找看看东西啊。
Collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines.
Where?
And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
你是很想把它商品化是吧？What the hell？ 哪里说嘞？你获得了，你找到了6个东西之中的一个，就没有了。它就卡住了，你终究是不可能全部收集到它的是吧？啊，我在哪边可以看到它？看的是找不到。
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic.
我现在仍然没有办法理解，我到底拿到了这个桶子，到底能够带给我什么东西？好，我们去看一下那个无尽深渊吧。当个勇敢的史蒂夫，直接往下跳。数据啊，分析啊，什么东西。
Stanley, here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is, in fact, a hole that you can fall down forever. That's right. Infinite falling. You can fall until the end of time if you like. A stunning leap forward for video games as a medium.
这个可以走上去的，可是感觉好像它被刻意的挡住了。无尽深渊，对，他也把这个地方挡住了。 过去。这个东西能叫我干嘛呢？
You see, isn't it wonderful? One of my more ingenious concoctions, if I do say so. Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop back up to the top, and we can continue onward.
按G返回到地面。
Now, I don't mean to be a bummer, but I do recommend you use the teleport button to go back to the top. Maybe do it on the sooner rather than later spectrum of things.
我现在在思考啊，就是如果我们真的有这种东西，会不会有人一直在这里面
Stanley, I don't know quite how to say this tactfully, but it's possible that I slightly exaggerated the infinite nature of the hole. Is it a very, very deep hole? To be certain it is. It's an extremely deep hole. I don't want anyone to say that it isn't an astonishingly deep hole. It is. Is it infinite? Well, that sort of depends on your definition of infinity. From one perspective, the infinite is merely philosophical in nature. It's more of a... Okay, well, good for you. You found the bottom of the hole. You found me out, Stanley. I'm a liar and a cheat, and you're so clever. Look, I think the issue here is just that you're unusually fascinated by falling. What normal person actually wants to fall infinitely? I figured the hole was as deep as anyone would actually... Don't you put this on me! Maybe you're the problem! Look, things got a little heated there. I think we both said some things we didn't
我没有说话啊。
Why don't we just put all this behind us and agree to just call the hole mostly infinite? If that works for you, then go ahead and press the teleport button to warp up to the top of the hole and we can move on. I'll just be up here when you're ready.
我刚本来是想要讲说的是，如果这个东西假设啦，因为我不想说一些什么想说一些耳用话，我只想说的是，假设这个洞真的是无限的话，那会不会有人就是为了想要去沉思，然后在那种想要在一个地方进行无尽的思考，然后他就自己跳进去这个地方，然后开始进行永无止境的思考，然后就旁边也是永无止境的空间这样子。前提是你不要手贱把你的手放在旁边的墙上面进行摩擦运动。啊，他看上去他应该不会想再跟我说话了。
Great. Now, I'm very excited to show you... Oh, for heaven... You see? I was right. The problem is you. The problem is that you like holes too much. Not normal. A normal person would have said, yep, that's an infinite hole right there. Goes on forever till the end of time. Don't need to see it all, but not you. Oh, no, 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 no. You have a weird sort of... Oh. Did the hole seem even shorter to you this time? I couldn't help but feel like you spent a little less time in there than you did before. I mean, admittedly, I didn't make an infinite hole, but I didn't think it was that not infinite. Well, I suppose once again there's nothing to do here. If you decide you've had enough of the hole, you can hit the teleport button and come join me up above. Had enough? I'm positively thrilled. Gosh, how could I have guessed? You're back in the hole. If this starts to become a thing where... Wow. Okay. Yes. I'm starting to become extremely certain that the hole is not only not infinite, but that it's growing steadily less and less infinite. I suspect that I'm starting to hit the point where it's no longer feasible to call the hole infinitely deep, even by the lax overall standards for accountability and marketing. What's going on here?
我怎么知道
Stanley, I have no explanation for the uncertain nature of the hole's length. Here, let's try something. Let's pop back up to the top, and we'll see if it gets any
你也
shorter.
开始好奇了是吧？
Well, there it is. The shame of my... How is this still appealing to you? I know you're obsessed with holes, but at this depth, I just can't see this scratching the itch. Oh, who am I to judge? You just do whatever it is you're here to do and hit the teleport button when you're ready to move on. Is the, teleport button not working? You sure? Well, I mean, I really don't have an explanation. It was working just a moment ago. Try it again.
不起作
Still
用啊。
nothing? Well, I suppose I suppose there is one thing I can do to fix this. I'm out. Goodbye, Stanley. You couldn't bear to be away from the hole, and now you'll get more time with it than you could ever have asked for. It's a win for everyone. You get to be with the hole, I get to do literally anything else. Take care, Stanley. I hope you and the hole have a wonderful rest of eternity.
我靠！啊，他就这样啊？What？ 啊，这个音效是怎样？What？ 还能这么整啊 ？What？ What the hell is going on？ 我靠，三尾啊，这个，哇，这三尾，哇，史丹利的脸了，天哪！哇，改变你的认知，三尾。哇，太嗨了吧！音乐是不是太多了一点？ What？ 音乐怎么越来越不好听了？音乐越来越不好听了。Why? What the hell? 这是播什么东西啊？天哪，我开始搞不太清楚了。 重复一轮之后都是处在不好听的状态。What？ 哇，变成机器人！机器人史丹利。What？ 这个跟 Garry's Mod 的那个电梯模组的感觉差不多哎，就是会遇到一些北七事情，造型还不一样。不行，好丑，好丑，赶快换！越来越难看了。
Stanley! Oh good, you're awake. It seems you had sort of dozed off there, drifting away into dreamland. But we can't have that, Stanley, because this hole is just so darn fascinating that I want you to be wide awake for every second of it. You don't want to miss a single moment. So how about if I just pop in from time to time and wake you up to keep you really truly focused on the hole? From the looks of things, you and I will have many, many years here in this hole, and I'm looking forward to all of them. Stay alert, Stanley. I'll be back. Toodlepip.
Toodlepip. 等一下啊，这个哦，我回来这里了，真是。
Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features.
不知道该说什么好。哦，我是不是都看完了啊？那个设置冠军的那个什么设置我已经看过了，可是他没有办法做出任何事情了。啊，这个东西什么事都不能做，这个区域不能做这种事情啊。Last new 是什么意思？有个地方是离开嘛，离开是那边，那这哦，我看过这个了。那我这边就不看了。目前为止，那个无止境的洞是最北七的，快被笑死！这个地方弄一个剪影，然后上面里面还是弄那个史丹利的那个画，我以为会跟这个东西有所关联，结果什么都没有吧？哦，这边是离开的话是要走这里。啊，应该看都看过了。
All right. Have you seen everything you wanted to? Ready to move on now?
Yes, yes. 谁的包包？哇哦 ，Stanley。No screenshots。所以我手上那个桶子到底是做什么呢？
So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together, and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience.
怎么用？
Okay, are you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2. Well, I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on, let me do a different arrangement. Okay, yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2.
这不是更糟糕了吗？
Who am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything.
Okay.
I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanley Parable 2. Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
Huh? Huh? 哇哦，稍微有那么迷幻感，可是根本就是那个 Garry's Mod 里面的那个的那个办公室的那个地图的感觉嘛。其他都不能按呢、但是为什么是红色的？红色只带给人家一种不安的感觉啊。哦，按下去了。
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change
真的改
Stanley.
变了。
Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
筒子呢？
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
气球。
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers. Stanley picked up the bucket.
哦，拿怎么还会有封锁线的啊、刻意的？这有必要吗？这种东西？拿起筒子是不是造成不一样的情况？之前的时候这个地方就直接走别的东西了，看来后续就是不一样玩意儿。
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
好，我们先走一次原本的。他就是为了想要把筒子给放进去，是不是？所以才搞这么一大堆飞机。
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers.
到底。我讨厌星期一，看来这部分东西并没有调整。哦。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Buckets. 下一次还是跑来厕所看一下有没有什么不一样。
You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
好哦。哇！续集现已暂停，真的是哇 ！Money in the morning, money in the evening, money for breakfast, money script. What? What are you talking about? 哇！什么都关起来给我看，是不是？哦，那直接锁住不让我走了。我先走一次正常的流程吧。
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
这边也有，哇
Another miniature Stanley figurine. This, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini stands? Stanley figs? Or what about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt.
你大可以不用特别讲出来。这边依旧是没有任何东西，是吧？我们这次直接走一个正常流程就好了，就不要那种上下之类的。Loading， 真的是把这种东西玩出来。
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
你知道吗？我现在开始觉得，到时候如果你把水桶从史丹利的身边拿开，他就大喊 “buckets”， 哇！
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
对，开个。这东西也太小了。
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
有那么史诗啊？有没有搞得好像那个啊？水桶是个女的感觉啊！天哪！ 水桶的性别是女的吗？ Jesus.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control. Never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world.
What?
At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
黑漆麻乌的，你要我去哪里？
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system. Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over? Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate.
Huh?
Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth.
Huh?
Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from
这什
the
么奇
end.
怪的习惯啊？
True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support, and... What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed?
Eh?
An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming
What?
presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go
What?
many lengths not to part with the bucket. No, no, no. Stanley can't leave this place, not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms, not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room, but at least he has the bucket.
What?
To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
好，好，然后现在的话，我们要先，因为他重新开启游戏的时候会有不一样的情况发生，所以我决定先重新开一次游戏。我先退出到桌面，然后呢，重新开启它。不知道为什么，我觉得它里面各式各样的北七事情都出现了。这个真的很难搞啊！天哪！啊，这个东西叫我调，几乎看不到。哦，真的是调到几乎了啊！我稍微让我自己有点好过一点，能看到东西。What？ 请调整滑块，直到狗和猫成为朋友。什么东西？5变成9。 这有什么意义吗？天啊！点调整滑块，直到你停止调整它，那就调个这个样子吧。这有什么用意吗？两个瞎编的词，你最喜欢哪一个 ？Ocubonka 跟 Scrumptious， 我不是很能够理解现在发生什么事情。都普通，我都不是很喜欢。你知道现在几点了吗？What？ 时间到底是什么？是。你关于自己有什么没告诉我的事情吗？What？ 你会回来看我吗？如果我再开启游戏的话，会啦。哎，现在这个怎么回事？等一下，我先上个厕所，我等一下再回来。What？现在这样，现在是我要怎么办？我是直接就把游戏退开之后，然后再重新登录，然后他会问我一大堆东西，是不是？会吗？我如果这样做的话，是不是重新想要问我一大堆东西？充斥着困惑。不然我再退出去好了。我再看他想跟我讲什么东西。但前面的设置也太北七了吧，充满着让人匪夷所思的情况哎。现在是几点？有人真的知道吗？当然没有，没有人知道任何事情。你看我甚至不认识对方，我们就像陌生人一样。我根据你的确切参数调整了所有游戏设置，但谁没有呢？这是我的任务。现在工作结束了，没有更多的信息可以收集了。嗯？ 不太喜欢它是这种颜色的时候，并不是让人觉得很舒心的感觉。所以最后面终究只是一个像是开玩笑之类的东西吧。
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
这些东西还保留。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
A figurine finder coming in the meeting room.
Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
我们这次试一下那个，我们这是要试一下那个想要逃生的结局吗？还是不要？就是走进去那个老板的办公室的那一刹那要退出去，然后那个他就会退出来。可是这个样子就不会有旁白了。可是我有点好奇啊，我们试一下。What? There will be a reward for finding this out. 怎么突然增加这个东西啊？天哪！我们需要更多的平板。Warehouse access plan. Products 1. Plan is allowed. Ra. 有很多箱子的地方，哦，可以找到的地方是不是？在一个非常大的空间里面有很多箱子，这是一个区域。在楼梯 ，something to do with stairs， 然后在对楼梯做什么就会出现。然后哪个地方同时有红色跟蓝色的地方？这个开始这是一个游戏吗？这其中一定有什么让人解决的，一定有让人可以理解的部分的。Gonna collect ammo. Find there be. 他们在说，你看这个东西看上去很像427号房的那个427办公室的那个家伙的样子。Who are you？ 他会有，到时候这面墙需要被清理了。我想要回家。哇，超级想要那些东西的！不要再对自己开玩笑了。What？ 我什么还没看完？啊！你要重新让我看呢？我们要怎么找到它呢？我会开这种东西哦！天哪！它会出现在它会在一些地方漂浮着出现。我们不知道这种东西到底是干嘛的。浴室那个厕所有出现过。Red Room 416 trust the completionist is that。为什么他就是不是告诉我，就是会有事情会发生呢？这些奇怪的东西，这个房间，感觉好像完全没有重点。我先试试看吧。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
我们这已经找过了嘛？这个地方，这边已经有一个了。我们已经找过，所以这边就不会再出现了，这很正常。还是开不了。
Stepping in.
这个门突然就开不起来了，快！因为下面并没有什么东西，对不对？也许啦，下一次还是看一下。好了，我们直接一路走回去吧。嗯？嗯。嗯。这个地方没有东西了，然后就继续，也没办法做什么，然后就是一路就走回去。这个都起作用了。有声音在干嘛？他说的 stairs 该不会是这个地方吧？虽然我不太确定，你这边目前来讲也不会因此而出现什么东西。有时候不得不承认，史丹利寓言它这种地方，就是当旁白完全沉默的时候，你会有一种很奇特的诡异感，就是本来应该很话唠的一个情况，然后突然什么声音都没有了。你什么都不，你就会觉得有种很沉默的那种，很沉默的一种诡异气、诡异氛围在。哎，好深情哦！天哪！ What？ 从没有想过的情况出现了。哇哦
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
没有了，没有，筒子没有了，筒子居然开了。哦，会变这个样子是吧？这样是不是不太对啊？
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
啊，筒子怎么办啊？
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
哇，没有筒子，他不会有其他对话。あれ？也没声音，然后什么都没有。哎，这算新内容吗？怎么看到奇怪的东西了？ Really?
Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figlies. What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by 1? Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me.
那边可以离开。奇怪的名字。What？ 啊？你已经开始。
Stanley had now gotten himself so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from. You didn't think I was actually just a recording, did you? What a silly and trite explanation that would be. All the back and forth between you and me, all the absurd adventures we've been through, and it all turns out I'm just a tape recording? It was all just in Stanley's head. I bet that's the kind of twist you think is revelatory. I bet each and every time you watch a movie where it turns out all to be in the main character's imagination, you must absolutely bolt off the couch in pure shock at the phenomenal and intricate storytelling. It must be so simple to be you. Life being an unending waterfall of surprises and delights. How much more exciting you must find the world than the rest of us do. Now I've become sad. Look what you've done to me. This is all your fault.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
重新放回来了。
And try not to lose this one too, you dolt.
哎，他还是回来了。
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him.
telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
是各式各样的北西事情欸，天哪！而且我以为我把桶子送回去之后，他再也不会回来了，结果他就给我送回来了。一时间我不知道这是该高兴还是该哭，因为往好的方向想，就是代表说这个东西回来了，代表我可以继续再用带这个桶子去进行各式各样的事情。不好的地方是代表说这个东西终究还是没办法逃离这个游戏的魔掌，它还是要回来。
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be. No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
Nope.
No,
said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
Go there.
Good,
said the bucket.
now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
太白痴了吧
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
这真是太白痴了太白痴了啊
Now pick up the phone.
Said the bucket.
Pick up the phone and it will take us back home, where we can go about life together.
你不会走一直白光吧啊不要再白了
This is the sad story of a man named Stanley and his bucket. Once upon a time, I gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend. And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him.
你是不是想影射什么东西按 J 一起工作吧
The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head. Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object? I want to say something to him, but I don't know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me.
按 O 回来
Oh, I'll try anyway. Stanley, can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket. It can't think. It can't talk. All it will ever truly do for you is effectively transfer a liquid from one location to a different location. That's it. It doesn't do anything else.
哇不要听那个大嗓门话哇这不就是那个蝙蝠侠里面那个腹语师完全被操纵的感觉啊好像这个状态啊天哪
You see, he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took orders from. Me he trusted and listened to. Now all he cares about is this awful bucket. This stupid hunk of metal.
不得不说史丹利他这个他屋子这个样子其实构成上蛮好的嘛就是至少就风水来讲的话你不会一开始就直接看到什么挖哥有隐蔽性然后这个这边落地窗景色又好然后这边有那个厨房按 B 忽略你生命中除我以外的任何人哇哦
It's sad. I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. from now on, he's just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket. Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice shine to it.
按G 回家。
Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware store bucket. It's just a little more, what am I trying to say? Sturdier, more capable of transporting liquid. Like it would be better at moving an amount of water from one room to another.
你是不是也着魔了？天哪！哇，他在看什么东西啊？我什么都看不到。按 Q 跟我重温这同一天，一遍又一遍。Q。
Oh my God, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket. Why do I feel some need to point out the ways in which it's so much more than just a regular bucket?
按 N 回家工作。
Oh no, I'm having feelings.
你有感觉？
No, 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 no. What's going on? Why do I want to be with the bucket? Hear what the bucket has to say. Do anything it asks. What's wrong with me? I don't understand. Perhaps if I had the bucket, this would be less confusing. Yes, the bucket could tell me what to do in this troublesome situation.
上回，我知道这大概是卧室，可是 ，really， Stanley 你在做什么？
Stanley, give me the bucket. Give it to me. Give me the bucket,
No.
Stanley. I need it. Give it to me now. Give it, or I'll...
回去工作。我就说了，他很有做那种悬疑惊悚类游戏的
All of his co-workers were gone.
的潜
What could it mean?
质，你知道吗？
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
他有这个潜力耶！
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers. The confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket.
啊，我重新点这个东西会怎样吗？哎，一切都不一样哎，越来越恐怖哎。
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this... No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Good,
Said the bucket.
now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked. No, stop! Look there on the wall, you see? There's a sign right there. It says, "No buckets past this point." Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless... What if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness, I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here for a moment.
Huh?
Now then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket.
What?
Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket. Okay, let's begin. Item 1. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
What?
Item 2. Is this a bucket?
为什么搞得像那个什么百万大富翁之类那种选择题的感觉
Incorrect. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
有必要这么斤斤计较吗？这个东西3D 打印就不是吗
Is this a bucket? Correct. This is a bucket. Item 4. Is this a bucket? Correct. This is a tractor and not a bucket. To be honest, I just sort of put this one in here as a gimme, but I was starting to get concerned that even this might be too much for you. Thank you for not making me look like an idiot. Okay, next one.
这太大了吧？那你知道持续多久？你想玩这个东西多久
Is this a bucket? Incorrect. This is a bucket.
啊？嗯？你才是判断力有问题的人吧
Item 6. Is this a bucket? Trick question. Both. Gotcha.
我怎么点？两个都点吗？我只有一只手啊，我一只手还拿着水桶呢。
Item. Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one.
你人站上去啊
It should be around here somewhere. Okay, you and I both know there isn't anything here. And I don't appreciate the implication that nothing is a bucket when we both clearly know that a bucket is something, and therefore nothing could possibly be something. Unless, in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket is nothing? Answer me straight, Stanley. Do you believe that nothing is a bucket? You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket? Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with. I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely. Okay, here we go. What happened? Is everything gone? Why did everything disappear? Wait, was everything a bucket? Every single thing in the game was a bucket. My God, I had no idea. How could... Except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either. Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue. But it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what. I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information might do to a person? All right, here we go.
Here we go.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers. Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home.
那个要去左边的，强制要你去左边。
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest
and entered the door on his left.
有个北七耶，天哪！有点好笑，各式各样的北七事情都跑出来了。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Oh yeah！ 一开始这个地方还不能走进去，然后现在可以。他有时候可以走进去，有时候不能走进去。啊，这个走进去会有什么事情？旁白在那个音乐的那个地方旁边那边哼歌，旁白在那个音乐播的时候那边哼歌，真的是，我想说奇怪怎么的啧的声音。
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would. And he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845.
哦，原来他还是想要交点吗？
But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
如果我再来一次上下电梯的话，他会不会又再把我带回去那边？我们试一下。我再来试一次。天哪，这是在完全重复的过程中，那边玩弄旁白，天哪！这么做有意义吗？大概没有吧，可是我觉得还蛮好笑的。
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine. Wait, Stanley said to the bucket. Can we go back up? When I was pressing those keypad buttons, there was something very intriguing about the number 3. I want to go back so I can try pressing the number 3 again. The bucket said nothing.
哦，不行，就是哦，那个刚刚那个大家都想要抢那个水桶那一段呢、那个蜡烛的量的确多到有点让人家觉得恐怖。
Here we are, said Stanley. Now I'm going to try out that number 3 button. He took the bucket over to the keypad and began absolutely slamming on the number 3 over and over and over. Wow, he said. The number 3 is such a special button. I'm having the time of my life. Stanley looked expectantly at the bucket, but the bucket remained silent. This was a shock to Stanley, who had always felt such a connection with the bucket. How was this not as exciting to the bucket as it was to him? Once Stanley had had enough of the number 3, he got back
Perhaps the bucket had missed something. Perhaps it had not seen how much joy Stanley got from slamming the number 3 repeatedly.
那个床上的蜡烛的确多到让人觉得好像是会失火，感觉上也会。而且通常来讲的话，应该那个东西放的是玫瑰花瓣，而不是蜡烛，不会那么多，而且不会放到不会放到那种程度。
A hint of regret nagged in the back of Stanley's mind. Should he demonstrate the number 3? No, 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 said Stanley to the bucket. You can't go on yet. Not till you understand how much the number 3 means to me. You and I have been through so much together, and I just want you to see what I see. Feel the happiness I feel. He smiled at the bucket, and the bucket said nothing.
又上去了，啊！你说低温蜡烛吗？
Here we go, said Stanley. This time I'll really show you. He ran to the number 3 and began to wail on it like a musician on a beloved instrument, weaving a concerto of truth and passion. He wielded the number 3 like a fine artist would wield a paintbrush. He told stories through the number 3, stories of his dreams and hopes and fears, and the whole time he looked to his bucket for a reaction of some kind. Anything to let him know that the bucket appreciated what he was doing. The bucket conveyed absolutely nothing at all, only silence. Crushed by a wave of dejection, Stanley returned to the elevator.
又回去喽。
Stanley and the bucket were so close. They'd always been there for one another. Why suddenly could the bucket not connect with this passion of Stanley's? The question caused Stanley to ruminate the whole way down the elevator. He knew that there must be a way to get through to the bucket, to communicate fully with his dear friend. Surely there was a solution, mustn't there be?
看来他不会跑跟之前一样的那个路线，就是。快笑死！我又上去了。
said Stanley. I know what to do. I know how to fully express this feeling in my heart. He decided right then and there that he would hold a press conference where he would speak to the public on all matters relating to pressing the number 3 over and over. He would elaborate fully on what the number 3 meant to him and why he felt so alive when pressing it. Then the bucket would be able to see his joy through the eyes of others. It would get to see the world react to this discovery of Stanley's. And it would be through the public eye that the bucket would finally understand Stanley's work.
真的是个。
For months, he advertised and marketed his press conference, building excitement around it, developing and rehearsing it, until it couldn't be refined a single measure further. When the big day arrived, Stanley was as prepared as he'd ever been for anything in his life.
感觉对话不一样啊，可是是特别北七。Doing great.
This was it. One last chance to win the bucket over. One opportunity to share a true connection with a loved one.
全都是3，哇！我应该截图给 YB 看这一段，没有任何意义，我只是先我去截图给他看。我笑死。等一下哦，哎，有个白痴，这个东西，有个白痴啊！我丢啊！大部分的字都差不多，可是我觉得我比较喜欢他之前讲说，就是要让那个 就是对于史丹利这样上下，然后上下一直来回之后，然后对于这种东西，然后帮他办记者会那一段比较好。
There was no one here. Nobody had come to the press conference to hear Stanley speak, to listen to him talk about what it really means to press the number 3 on a keypad over and over. He was unloved, uninteresting, he was a failure, and in that moment Stanley knew that the bucket would never again take him seriously. There would be no connection, no deeper understanding. The bucket merely sat there in his arms, indifferent. And so it began that slowly, over many years, the two of them grew more and more distant. They spoke less and less, neither wishing to state the obvious, that any sense of real respect between them had eroded since that day at the press conference. There would be no more games, no more long conversations about passion and pursuit, only a silence that consumed the space between friends. And Stanley, having for once in his life discovered the warmth and comfort of true companionship, was cast back into the unremarkable normalcy of loneliness.
Wow. 天啊，超哀伤的。所以他们要反映什么东西？字幕突然跑出来。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
啊，对哦，这个东西如果我要走出去，我最后一个按钮在我自己的办公室。可是如果可是我走出去拿水桶回来的时候，门就关上了，那就没有用了，代表这个按钮就没用了。
Stanley picked up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket around. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
然后走一下下面。 Something to do with stairs， 这个3是我最没办法理解。4的话应该是之前就有做过，就是他那个认知要调整，可是那个东西我也不是很确定。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for it. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then, something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. Now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Stanley! Stanley, it's me, the bucket.
Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket.
Come to me, Stanley. Find me.
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he
froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along. It was incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out.
不要拿水桶，你是说不要拿水桶，然后跑这一段吗？可是这一段也
This
只
is the
是
story of a woman named Mariella.
没有这一段我以前有跑过了，就是一样的。这不拿水桶
Mariella woke up on a
是一
day
样的
like
这种
any
情况
other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course, he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself, my life kicks ass. And she backflipped all the way to work.
一路后空翻到去上班是什么鬼东西啊？你要不要听你在讲什么？所以你的意思说我接下来再来试一次，然后不要拿水桶直接走下去，是不是？因为这个在
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
因为他在13年版的时候，我已经跑过这个剧情了，就在下面的。好，你说这样子的话，那我就试着不拿，就试着不拿吧。理论上应该是就
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
因为如果他在终极豪华版没有做调整的话，那应该就他也就是说，我拿桶拿那个水桶跟不拿水桶，它会影响我那个之后走的一些路线。也就是说，如果我要拿那个红蓝房间里面的那个史丹利雕像的话，那我就要不能拿水桶，然后去拿。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished. His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment and my wife and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay. Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
这边也是蛮惊悚。
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy, this much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
就不晓得，我不晓得是要一开始就直接冲过去还是怎样。刚，对啊，我这边他会想要那个吧，把他门关起来了。怎么不一样了
The good old bucket. Just Stanley and the bucket, off on another thrilling adventure together.
？What？ 怎么突然就不一样了？
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
太快了吧？怎么这么突然？然后我们先理清一下，就是刚刚有人说那个直接走上楼梯那边看楼梯的最底部反方向，你说叫他走反方向吗？好啊，你这种方。
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be.
因为刚想问的是，就是刚楼梯底下，因为那个地方是红色嘛，走到最底下之后它是红色的。
Truly, being here with the bucket was a grand adventure.
让我讲完嘛。
Stanley reflected on all they'd been through together. First, walking through the door on the right, then walking to the lounge, then arriving at the lounge. What a thrilling journey the bucket had inspired.
然后然后那个时候我有在看，就是楼梯的
Perhaps this was
底
where
下那
the
个
bucket felt most truly
背后的
at
部
home.
分，然后
Here
那个
in
时候
the
不会有。
employee lounge. Perhaps it's the only place a bucket can even feel at home.
然后那个时候我是还没有遇到水桶的时候，我还没有拿到水桶那个阶段的时候，有在检查。
Stanley decided to just give the bucket absolutely as much time as it needed to be in the lounge. Clearly, the bucket and the employee lounge shared a special connection.
所以我不晓得到时候我拿水桶下去，或者是已经有水桶这个阶段之后，我一个人下去到那个底部那边看楼梯，会不那个楼梯那个部分会不会有东西？这我不确定。我现在不晓得，就是我拿到水桶之后的阶段，这个阶段之后，我轮回重起来，然后我去拿了水桶或不拿水桶，然后按照它的那个方向走到最底下的时候，红色那个有放红光的那个地下室那个地方的楼梯的背后会不会有雕像？这个点我不确定，可能之后再试吧。那个时候我没有看嘛，所以我就不晓得。好了，这边没东西了，走吧。
But finally, the bucket was done being in the lounge, and they took the first open door on their left to get back to business.
好了，这边的话，拿着水桶之前的话是会有一些情况啊。首先的话是，等一下。首先的话是我们如果继续往刚刚那个地方搭电梯，然后他会听水桶，我们会听那个嘛旁白假装的水桶声音，然后去那边，然后就会问那个水桶到底是啥回那种玩意儿。然后还有一个就是我跳到走廊上那个走道上面，然后接下来就是一路走到不知道哪边去。没有所以我再走一次也会不一样吗？我现在这边再拿的水桶再走一次相同这种奇特路线也会不一样吗？
And so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
也许是，也许不是，因为我不晓得他有做多少层，你知道吗？
Oh, good Stanley, I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually. You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it.
你有这种新的东西吗？那你之前不演示给我？我对你太失望了，怎么办？
Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well. Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up.
有人知道那个频率要调低一点吗？太没气了。那什么？那么这什么让人不安的红光
Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer.
No.
I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree? Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you. Go ahead now, Stanley.
No.
Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready.
No. Shut it down, please.
Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the Bucket Destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality trait. Sure, I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The broom closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this. Okay, the Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You have to hurry and feed it. We can't get back to the classic Stanley Parable characters like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now, the fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what they want. Hurry and...
What?
The Bucket Destroyer. My prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you, tell such spellbinding stories about you. All of it squandered now. Goodbye, new friend. For the moment in time that you were here, you were magnificent.
他其实不算让我丢掉了，按了一大堆东西，什么都没有反应，什么反应都没有。哦，他就一直留着，天哪！
I can't wait to tell this story to my co-workers, Stanley thought. How amusing they'll find it. Oh, won't we all just laugh and laugh at the time I thought everyone had gone missing.
我先去把那个红蓝房间的东西先拿完好了。
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Stanley felt lightheaded, butterflies in his stomach. Giddy but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
哦，你说是哦同一路线，就这个嘛。
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
But
Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here it's, left. Oh, no, it's to the right, my mistake. No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute, please?
纸上的沙沙声。
Now, let's see. We went down right, left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way.
是那个红蓝的吗？我想那不是啊。
No. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler.
Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top.
应该不是这个样子的吧
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
我昨天已经体验过了，昨天已经体验过了。就这个东西，然后它会重复超多次的，不是吗？我要找的是那个收集品的部分啊。
When Stanley, wait.
这个我看过了。
No,
昨天看过了。
No, I restarted. I swear, I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything should be. Or did something change? Stanley, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors? Did you move the?
这个东西看过了，我重新游戏好了，因为昨天看过这个东西了，在这个时候再看没有什么意义在了，就没有任何的。没有实质上的意义了，已经看过了，已经，没必要了，就我们再重新吧，重新再看那个吧。对啊，就是现在我可以确定的嘛，只要看这个东西就知道我现在是不是真正的那个重新开始。
Stanley knew the office layout like the back of his hand. It was only a matter of time before he found the others, wherever they were. Just a matter of time.
旁白这个地方的那个对话也一直在重新。
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was grand, majestic, perhaps too much, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance. You're getting close now, Stanley. You've nearly gotten all of the Figler and Marines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one, and then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them, and now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler and Marines. None of us can. Now listen carefully.
好，重新开始游戏，完全不想听他讲话。好，那最后面的话是
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
我们直接先走那个楼梯的底下，直接往左边。
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Stairs. Something to do with stairs.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
哦，有了耶！
And there it is. The last Stiggly Wiggly. Savor this moment, Stanley. This is a real accomplishment. This is doing something just for the sake of doing it. Where so many people expect to be rewarded for the most trivial achievements, you've insisted that a job well done is its own reward. I would tell you that I'm proud of you for collecting them all, but that would be like a reward, and we can't have that. So, instead I'll just say, it's done. We're all done here. And now we can go to whatever the hell you were doing before you hunted for figurines.
我们可以再试一次那个在这边跑，然后就。
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating?
好，完全一样，那就重来吧。你说光机票吗？机票的钱就要4万，你要不要考虑像是那种廉价航空那种，像虎航之类的？就，怎么 loading 那么久？哦，他觉得我们要去那个地方就算了。
Stanley, I'm sorry,
What?
but I have to put a pause on things. It's those figurines. Those figglers. I haven't stopped thinking about them since you nabbed every last one. Wasn't it just the most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire life? Didn't it fill you to the brim with inner richness? Yes, I know we're supposed to be telling a story, but won't you please indulge me with one more trip back to the memory zone? I would love nothing more than to revisit the figurines.
What?
Just one more time.
玩一趟含吃住要4，可是这样子应该已经算不错了吧？4万的话，说实话，我觉得你吃那个搭飞机，然后飞机的来回，然后吃跟住，就是基础消费4万已经算是可以接受的了。When Stanley found the collectibles， 你这么喜欢这玩意儿吗？旁边这箱子是啥？我没有想过，就是我昨天才来过这个地方，我今天又再来一次这里，直接往下走，是吗？
Here's where it all began. The first collectible. Back then, we had no idea of how many of them we'd find. Sure, it said 6 right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again, Stanley.
结果我没有对这个东西有什么留恋，反而是旁白对这东西有留恋啊！天哪，7，这样子多一个嘛，白痴死了，跟团哦，跟团不
And
错。
here was the second Stanley. You found this one all on your own, just by poking around in the boss's bathroom. You did that, Stanley. I'll be honest. Back then, I had no faith in you to find any of them, let alone 6. But you continue to surprise me in all sorts of mundane, unremarkable ways.
Wow. 哪里说来？
Okay, let's do a little quiz. Which of these rooms was the room you found your third mini stand? Can you remember? That's exactly right. It was here, behind the boss's office. It was the third one. You picked it up, and then after that, you had 3 of them. I'm glad these moments are so crystal clear in your memory, but I shouldn't be surprised. After all, science tells us that it's impossible to forget your 3rd time doing anything. Let's see, what came next? Oh yes, we found a Figley in this pink room. Oh, well, I can't actually say I remember being in this room, but it's here in the memory zone, so it must have happened.
What? 我在这边找到吗？
This was the 5th mini-Stan, and this one was really something special. It was by the red and blue doors. I remember it so clearly. In fact, because this one is particularly special to me, I made a little video to commemorate the occasion. Enjoy.
不需要吧？不需要讲这个。
Takes you back, doesn't it? I spent a lot of time making that video, but it was 8 minutes I wouldn't have spent on anything else.
两个门是一样的，就是当时你用就是 Windows 的那个 Media Maker 之类的东西去 Media Maker 的之类的东西做的，就是那种很意义不明的小短片，就是当时的简易小东西啊，免费制作程式而已啊。
And then, Stanley, then we came to the last collectible, the final figurine, right here, under the stairs. This memory is the most distinct and clear in my mind, perhaps because it was the one that happened more recently than all the others. Who can truly say how the mind works? All I know is that this is the moment where you picked up a Figley and I thought to myself, yes, that's all of them. They're all collected. It was a moment unlike any other. Except for the other moments picking up figurines, which it was exactly like. And then there was no more, because we've caught up to the present moment. Nothing left to do but move onward into the future. Goodbye, memory zone. No, I'm not done. I'm not ready to move on. Stop the loading screen.
What?
Isn't there some way we can stay here, keep enjoying these figurines? Let's just go backwards. We'll do the memory zone again from the opposite direction. See how that feels.
What? 什么？我们还要倒回去找他吗？有这种事情吗？
Okay, yes, that spot under the stairs. I remember this. I must say, of all the figurines we looked at in our initial tour of the memory zone, this one is the most distinct and clear in my mind. Let's keep going. I want more.
What? 我的旁白是不是陷入了歇斯底里的状态啊？你要做影片给我看的吗？
And here's where I made that video. Don't you remember the video we
我知道
watched?
再播一次。
Yes, I love that video.
14个了，照这样像这样子的话，我们总共可以收集到18个。你先不改一下这个地方
Still
吗
don't remember the pink room, Stanley. Still no memory of this one. Good room, though. A solid room.
我印象中这个地方不是啊。看这里面太多北西梗了吧。
These really were a treat to hunt down. You know, if there had been any kind of reward for finding all of these, it really would have neutered the intrinsic joy of collecting them. I'm very glad we resisted the temptation. Next one.
等一下，到底是谁没有抵制住诱惑的啊 ？Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? 我印象中有一个是在这个地方找到的。那个是在这个是在那个仓库的部分找到的啦，然后他一直放那个苹果给我看，骗人的。我要掉了，这个。天啊，这东西怎么可以梗玩成这样子
This was our second Figley. Don't you remember? Yes, I remember it too. The past is truly a wonderful thing. Why does anyone ever choose to leave it? Keep going.
Keep going. 他有时候自己断掉的时间点很奇怪，不是很能够理解。
This is it, the very first one we found in the exhibit where I introduced you to the figlarines. Oh, I want more memories, Stanley. I want to keep going. What else is there? What came before this?
收集它，收集它。跳跃圈。
Look, it's the terrible new content that we were originally sold on. I remember hating it back then, but time does put a rosy filter on everything. In fact, I dare say I'm actually quite fond of it now. Look how much fun the past is. I want more memories.
这种玩法真的是从前所未见的，你知道吗？从来没有看过会变这个样子的。
Oh, yes, the two doors. Who could have forgotten that? A classic memory, this one.
都一样，对吧？
And before everything else, there was your office. Is there anything else? Was there something that came before your office? There's something I feel I can remember. I can remember.
Remember what? 你到底记得了什么？
I'm remembering something now. I remember before this whole story got started. Back then I was different.
Huh?
I used to make big decisions. I was passionate. I was skeptical. I weighed each decision with profound thoughtfulness. And then somewhere along the way, I stopped making decisions. I became lazy. And I came up with a character named Stanley to do my thinking for me. He would make the decisions. He would decide which way to go. I would cheer him on as he collected figurines for no reason. Why did I invent Stanley? Was I lonely? Yes, perhaps that's it. Perhaps I needed to imagine I had companionship. And Stanley really did make for a wonderful companion, even if he was a fiction. But I suppose it's grown old. I want to think for myself again. I want to go back to how it used to be. Yes, I can be on my own again. I can do it. I'll be stronger this time. I'll take care of myself. I don't need Stanley anymore. Oh, but he truly was so much fun to play with. You know what? Since we're in the memory zone, how about one more good memory? Let's go back just once and give Stanley one more run of the office, and then I'll retire him for good. I did enjoy telling his story so very much. Okay, here we go. This is the story of a man named Stanley.
每次这种东西都会给我一个全新的感受。
How wonderful. Stanley was alone. Finally. This is great, he thought to himself. This is what I've wanted all along.
Where are we going today? The bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfectly fine with him.
Perfect.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this no? Never mind. The bucket was wrong.
这是我们让他
Stanley took the
走
door on his
回
left
去
to
一个
go
地
back
方
to，the meeting room.
走到一个这个
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
我
But Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend. So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's arms. How deeply touching.
不小心失足了。
Stanley knew the office layout like the back of his hand. It was only a matter of time before he found the others, wherever they were. A good bucket, a strong bucket, a humble bucket, a committed bucket, a bucket of culture and distinction.
是不是自从那个旁白对水桶着迷之后就变这个样子了？
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was it? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
啊，我拿着水桶走来这边会怎样吗？
Okay, this is day number 295, tape number... I don't even know. I've lost track. Nothing feels real anymore. The longer I study this bucket, the less sense anything makes. The sheer euphoria I feel every time I pick it up. No matter how many times I've done it, it's always the same feeling. And the emptiness in my chest when I set it down.
是魔戒梗吗？
It doesn't make sense. There's no explanation for it. I still haven't figured out why I see the world so
越来越像咕
differently
噜了，
when
怎么
this
办？
bucket is in my arms. Why everything feels so... What do I do with this treasure? I can monetize it. Yes. It's unthinkable the amounts of money people will pay for even just an hour with the bucket. This is my golden ticket. But I have to be careful, because as soon as this gets out, there's going to be a target on my back. Even now, I don't know who might be trying to get... What's that? Who's there? Caporata.
我就说他有惊悚悬疑片的潜质，那个吧，潜力吧。我说他完全有，太夸张了。
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him.
还有哪个是我没有经历啊？
The embrace of an old friend, a weathered companionship that stands the test of time.
我想起还有一个地方没有去过，要走之前有个逃脱路线。
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
其实我蛮喜欢他那个时候跑。
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever.
哦，没有。
Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers.
这边之前的这个寻找的那个字迹啊，完全就好像仿佛从来没有发生过一样。我是说他有惊悚悬疑片的那个潜力了啊。
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy, it's as clear as day. This broom closet believes it deserves the bucket. I can really feel it now. It's a bucket. It belongs in a broom closet. That's what the broom closet is trying to say here. It's supposed to go with the other cleaning supplies. Good for you, Stanley. Don't give in. Don't hand over the bucket. I know how hard it must be, given the pressure that the broom closet is putting on your shoulders right now, but you have to be strong. This is your bucket. This is your companion and lifelong friend. You can't hand it over. Oh no. We're getting into name-calling now, it seems. Is this how low the broom closet has sunk that it has to resort to this stream of petty insults simply in order to get you to hand over the bucket? Stanley, I never liked this broom closet for a variety of reasons, but even this is worse than I had imagined. And wait, now the broom closet has the gall to imply that you and the bucket are not truly deep and lasting friends? That your relationship is purely superficial and convenient? That your life is so banal and meaningless that you'd feel the same sort of kinship towards any inanimate object which happened to lay in your path in an even partially enticing manner? Well, I never. Go on, Stanley. Lay into it. Really tell the broom closet off for its demeaning comments. Expand on the wide variety of experiences you and the bucket have shared together. Go through each of them point by point. Share your journal entries detailing the rich emotional landscape of your feelings for the bucket as they have changed and evolved over the years. Let him have it. Okay, I've got you something which I think will help settle this debate once and for all. Here we go. There. Now it's settled. No more debate. No more discussion. Take a hike, broom closet, with all your meandering philosophical diatribes about the nature of cleaning supplies and their relationship to broom closets in the natural order of things.
他有能力贴纸在我的，
All right, I've got a second sticker back here, and I'm going to slap it on as well because I think it's appropriate. You see? I feel that it works because the sticker is also a bucket. That way, if you're ever unsure whether the thing you're holding is a bucket or not, you can look down at this sticker and say to yourself, ah, it's a bucket. There really is a wide variety of applications for this sticker.
这脑洞也太大了吧
You know what? I could take the name-calling and the dismissal of your kinship with the bucket, but now the broom closet is just giving us the silent treatment. And to be honest, I'm sick of the pettiness on display. You can stay here all you like, but I've had it with this impetulant room of cleaning supplies. Easily the most childish such room I've ever been in. I'll see you outside, and we can get on with the story about you and your bucket.
可是你知道昨天的时候，他光是那个略过按钮的部分，他就没办法自己开一个门出来。他可以贴纸，可是他没办法创造出一个门出来。好了，这边已经结束了。那他之后一直保持这个东西吗？保持这个状态？
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
快笑死！灯啊，这边可以打开了。
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
好了，我们决定跑之前这个地方的最后的部分。
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
好，走这边。
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
不行，我相信我的筒子要救
The
我
door
的。
behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them. As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end as it was crushed violently to death.
What?
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
我手上的水桶没有了。水桶，欢迎光临大展。你正站在知识的悬崖边上，就像水桶本身是空的一样。人类也经常脑袋空空。是一个巨大的空洞，但通过使用你面前的展品，头脑会变得丰富、充实，不再空虚。关于水桶和它的历史的知识，是我们真正拥有的唯一真知。你会不会把你在这里学到的东西带到外面的世界去？你会以开放的心态接受本展览中的信息可能存在的挑战吗？你会因为这个展览而改变你自己和你所爱的人的人生吗？还是会视而不见，继续像以前一样生活而在无知和黑暗当中呢？啊，完全的没办法理解他想讲什么东西。
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
What？ 还是往上吗？哦，就上面而已。太多筒子了吧？25个筒子，一张25个水桶的照片，这是有史以来用相机拍摄到的最大数量的水桶。由于一次接触到这么多水桶的新快感，摄影师经历了几个星期的紧张性休克。这25个水桶吗？不是吧？这远超过25个水桶吧？ ？Really？ 地狱水桶，地狱水桶的复制品，它在中世纪的时候就有非常强大的诱惑力，以至于驱使几十个国家为了控制它而彼此开战，数十亿人死亡。然而，尽管如此，一个简单的事实仍然存在：没有人能够控制水桶。继火把教之后，我现在还要面临到所谓的水桶教吗？洞穴绘画。虽然我们知道水桶早于人类存在 ，what？ 但我们不知道多久。这幅洞穴绘画描绘了早期人类发现水桶实际用途的情景。那时，水桶可能已经存在了成千上万年。请注意看这些图画中，水桶是如何允许自己被使用的。他已经判断出人类配得上它的宝贵。我现在我的脑海里面浮现出了那个旁白，然后创建出了史丹利的寓言的这一个故事。然后呢，他
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
然后呢，就他创建出了这个故事，然后他深陷于这个故事中无法自拔。悬吊的水桶，这幅作品象征着水桶和人类之间必要的关系。无论我们对水桶的把握有多清晰，还有更多的东西总是遥不可及，不可避免的这种距离是为了我们自己的利益。
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision.
不是啊，那个展览我还有很多东西没看呢。What？ 你知道它还有一个路线是，如果我在那个 Mind Control 那个地方不按 Off， 而是按Off， 而是按 On 的话，应该会变怎样吧？
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
怎么可以有这么多花样啊？这个我到底体验了多少个东西？哎呦！
The bucket made Stanley want to be a better man and a better co-worker. In time, perhaps, he would become both of those things.
欢迎来到白板结局。
Stanley pressed the bucket upon every little thing in the office. Nothing responded to the bucket's touch, but it did little to discourage Stanley's belief in the magic of the bucket.
哦，那个狗狗模式是代表说我从按键的那个声音变成狗狗的声音了。天哪，狗在叫的声音。哦，我在这边先把我刚刚原本想要讲的东西讲完，就是你不觉得就是现在的情况变得是，原本旁白创造出了史丹利的寓言这个故事，然后深陷在这个故事中无法自拔，然后就一直写了超多分支出来，就好像他写了一个原创的 CP， 然后就一直从这里面无限的延伸出其他的树状的那个支线的剧情出来，然后这里面的 CP 原本是旁白自己跟史丹利，现在多了一个，现在他在里面加了一个水桶这个角色之后，就变成是史丹利、水桶，然后旁白这三者之间黏在一起的那种状态吗？就，然后这个然后这个算续集吧，我就把这个东西算 就这版这个终极豪华版里面，这里面水桶的登场就相当于是新的角色出现，然后在这里面起的化学反应过多到让我觉得我不知道该怎么去做反应了，你知道吗？它太多东西可以搞笑了，它太多北西事情了。What？ 哦，所以我就直接。
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
就是感觉上旁白自己本身他是撰写者，然后他写的时候把自己带入进去，然后同时他在终极豪华版这一版的故事这一个新的系列里面。我把它跟2013年的版本分开来，区隔开来。就它这原本这个东西加进去终极豪华版里面，就是它加了水桶之后，这是林一中的内容，变成终极豪华版之后，这个系列里面变得更多，有更多的角色，跟更多的分支，跟更多的化学反应。你不觉得就是一个，就是哪一天？你在同人展上面突然发现了这种东西的 CP 本，我也不意外的感觉。虽然我觉得如果一开始如果你们有在市面上看到有人写了，有人出了旁白跟史丹利的 CP 本，我是不会意外的。可是我怀疑会不会有人出这种东西。然后现在这边有个是 off 跟 on 嘛，那我们要去按一下 on 那个部分嘛，因为右边的好像几乎我已经看了。你看，我会摔死，然后走进去通风口里面，然后听着他的话。
Stanley just stood there doing nothing at all. He seems to think I have nothing better to do with my time than to sit around and describe every fascinating little detail of his inability to do anything. This is why Stanley and I are on such good terms.
你说直接看他那个吗？直接看成就吗？这样子吗？它里面有一个是写 beats the game， 完成史丹利的预言。什么叫做完成史丹利的预言？这个故事，还有一个8888888的，然后还有一个请忽略这一个成就的东西。Setting word， 把设置冠军，还有是什么东西 ？Speed run， 完成史丹利的预言在4分22秒内。哦，我以为他跟我讲说叫我去看那个。Super Go Outside， 天哪！在玩史丹利的预言在礼拜2，我不懂什么叫做完成史丹利的预言这个成就，天哪，太红了吧！好，我们按一下按吧，就把它按。
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
我也不晓得什么叫做破完啊，他说 beat again 啊 ，beat again 理论上应该就是完成。
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
我现在完全不知道这个东西接下来该，我不晓得他的成就是想指什么东西，也许是有什么成就是特别需要处理的。那个 on 应该点下去，应该会出现什么事情了？对不对？
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
不知道，反正就再破一个结局，就我觉得差不多了，就也没有什么东西了吧。
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
不然我在想到什么东西，可是想一想，我突然就不知道该讲什么。
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter, his one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
是时候了，按下 on。
But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Birds. Silly, silly birds. The control buttons became active again. Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley was happy.
这是难得的好结局，真的是算是难得的好结局。
Hi, Stanley. Just wanted to leave you a message to let you know there's a few things I need you to pick up on your way home from work today. We need milk, cereal, dish soap, spaghetti, get a thing of sugar, some bread, and coffee beans, whichever ones you like. I'll give you a call if there's anything I forgot. Thanks, sweetie. See you tonight.
What？ 这个是要干嘛？啊？
everyone is so lucky to have a bucket, but Stanley is a very lucky fellow. Very lucky indeed. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
现在左右两边还有什么路是我没有走的吗？应该都走过了吧？应该都走过了吧？两边应该都有走过才对。那这样子的话，还有什么是要做的吗？这那个筒子的部分是倒是没有完全看完就是了，难道我要再看一次吗？我再去看，我去把那个东西看完了。
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
史丹利死掉的地方也有桶，对，那这个就是我拿桶子，就是刚刚死掉的时候就是那个样子啊，就是那个啊。
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
我不是很懂疯狂死掉的定义是什么。疯狂路线。哦，那个我们前面已经体验过了。你是说在地下室那边那个疯狂轮回那个已经体验过了。就是大部分东西已经体
Stanley and the
验
bucket
过
walked
了。
straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death. The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
"对，女生路过史丹利的那个。那个也是史丹利死掉的那个啊，里面史丹利死掉的，除了这个以外，就是你刚刚说的那个玩意儿，一个就是那个你经过有车的那个地下室那个地方，跟这个以外，
As the machine whirled into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be.
温暖舒适。
To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket. But what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end as it was crushed violently to death. It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold. Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in
有
his
解过
short
那个东西
life?
解过了。每年都有数十人因为尝试这样做而被处死，这样子就被处死啊？太 over 了吧！哦，东西没有我想象中那么多，是不是？它有2个路线呢、压力水桶，这不就是饮料桶吗？不加说明的展示 ，what？
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
总的来说，你终究还是要他拿的、啊，基本上也没有其他东西了吧？我们再把游戏给关掉，然后重新再开一次。最后一次开这个游戏这样子。尾声是怎样？什么是尾声？我没有想过这个东西突然跑出一个尾声给我看。不过是终极豪华版嘛，什么东西都跑出来。很多年以后，啊？很多年以后，为什么我就站在这边呢？这撒回，啊，我桶子呢？什么情况？我靠！世纪末办公室，世纪末办公室是什么鬼东西？过太久了吧，连这个东西都躺下来了。这是发电机嘛，对不对？哇哦！Cookie Nice Block， 像许多人一样，我很喜欢原版的史丹利的寓言，这凸显了我对其续作的真正失望。第一部游戏充满了原创性，而史丹利的寓言2则沉闷，缺乏灵感，并且经常侮辱其粉丝群体。续集非但没有扩展前作的乐趣，反而转向了没有人想要的领域。一个无限生动，谁在乎？新的结局在哪里？史丹利的寓言1中令人愉快的部分呢？不如冒险线条。相反，我们得到的是一个毫无新意的收集小雕像的支线任务。即使是这种消遣，也让人感觉不完整。收集所有的小雕像也并不能够带来任何好处。比如说，我发现水桶相当令人舒服，是一个值得欢迎的缓刑。What？ 猫狗诞生，史丹利的寓言开发者不再有衍生品，不再有续作。当史丹利寓言于2013年推出并大获成功时，其创作者计划将该游戏打造成一个完整的系列。但正如他们今天发布的新闻稿中所描述的那样，史丹利的寓言2灾难性的评论和商业反响，促使开发商重新思考他们的雄心。很明显，粉丝们并不想要更多的史丹利的寓言。新闻稿中这样写道：我们以为我们对这个系列有一个让玩家兴奋的愿景，然而事实证明，这与事实相差甚远。该新闻稿继续承诺保持原游戏的艺术完整性，并停止用我们鲁莽且侮辱性的创意愿景攻击粉丝。在新闻稿中，对不起这个词出现了25次以上。史丹利的寓言2获得了电子游戏历史上几乎最低的纵横评分，仅次于艾内斯托的小文件冒险。这到底是什么东西啊？艾内斯托的小文件冒险，害我好好奇这个东西到底是什么啊？反正说就是评价超级烂。哇，光源是靠这个东西吗？唯一一个里面录的是 Stanley 耶，真的太让人惊讶！我以为他全部都只讲 Jim。不过是吉姆，因为他是量产型的，可以理解。太多了吧？获得26个。从上面这样掉下来。Thank you for enjoying the new content。这边这个应该已经指针都没有了，不能点。又见面了，真的是又见面了，很高兴见到你。但得知永远不会有另外史丹利的寓言是件糟心的事。你看了开发人员的话了吗？保护 IP 的完整性，这是一派。你知道吗？我现在开始怀疑，现在在跟我讲话这个就是旁白。史丹利的寓言不是神圣的，我们不需要保护它，去它的传承，让我们继续制作史丹利的寓言游戏，直到太阳爆炸。让我们把这个 IP 弄得一塌糊涂，让我们把它拖进泥潭，再拖出来。如果人们讨厌它呢？谁在乎？你看，这就是旁白君的问题，还太过痴迷于人们对他作品的看法。原不是同一个人吗？不要犯他的错误。 不要执着于传承，把它毁了算了。这并不难。事实上，我给你演示一下。我们将一起制作史丹利3，真简单。我们只需要更改游戏标题画面中的数字，从2变成3，是不是？我们需要一个非常愚蠢的副标题，一些吵闹而华丽的东西。来吧，甚至把一些随机的词组合在一起，为我们的游戏想一个新标题。哦，他这边是有些不能点，不对，吓死我了！回到周二，白痴情况。每次你重新开始游戏，我们就会将续集的编号加1，然后挑选一个新的副标题。这样一来，史丹利的寓言这样就永远不会结束。这样做的时候，游戏本身什么都不会改变。增加更多内容，听起来还得干活，何必那样做呢？只需要把相同的内容一次次重复利用，加上一个新的标题画面就可以了。你觉得我们应该执行这个计划？感觉就是有路线的啊！我这个东西要点是还是不是啊？天哪！又是一个选择题。基本上，我们现在跟我们对话的这一个，跟旁白所做的是两码子事。他现在想做的就是只更改标题，可是原本内容并几乎不会有任何改变，就只是单纯的那个标题跟讲就是续集的第几集，然后一直加1 n 加1的意思。旁白想做的就是更多，就是更听信于那个玩家的那个粉丝的建议，他更在乎那些负面的，他想要去改善它，想要让所有人都喜欢这个游戏。结果就是我们现在看到就是这个尾声的部分 ，no 吗？就发明新的续集。我觉得这个后面的尾韵有那么一点伤感。好了，那这就是我们的史丹利的寓言终极豪华版。老实讲，我很喜欢他在讲新内容的时候，然后提供那些试验性的东西，让我觉得就是这个游戏变得有点好笑。然后它中间大小的那些像收集品啊，然后他想要让我回顾的那一段，真的是蛮北七的，足够北七到让我觉得就是好笑程度。当然，他有时候一些歇斯底里的部分，让我也觉得就是，哇，这个游戏竟然是可以玩到这个毛骨悚然啊那样子。然后想到了一些超法线空间，也有一个部分就是只有单纯用音效跟一些痕迹啊，那个字迹，然后去暗示你好像发生什么事，结果发生什么事都没有。总之呢，这个游戏就在这边，我们就玩到这边了。因为大体上几乎大概有80%的内容我们应该都体验过了吧，其他路线顶多就是一些小彩蛋东东。好了，那我们今天就在这边做结束了。对，好，就先这样哦，就先玩喽，拜拜。